brought the Spruce Goose in. Big tourist trap, you know?
Oh, I'd like to see it, just to see. If they built it out of plywood, that'd be neat.
Oh, yeah.
You know why he built it that way?
Why?
I never knew. I always just wondered. And you know how, you never know in a movie how true a movie is, but when you see the movie, my understanding and how I saw it right was that he had a lot of enemies that were trying to put him out of business, and he was so flamboyant, he'd do anything he wanted. And he was using up all this money, and his accountant was giving, fits, and he would just, like he wanted to make a movie, and spending all this money on a movie with no ending because he still wasn't perfect and everything. Well, somewhere along the line, these people that wanted to put him out decided that they were going to embargo. He couldn't get enough metal to build a plane, and he had already had the contract to build this thing. He had the designs and everything, and then he couldn't get the metal. They figured, well, he says, we'll build out of something else. And he just figured, let's see if we can figure it out. Well, let's just try wood. I mean, but in the movie, it makes sense. Now you understand, why would he have built something like that? Well, it's because he wanted to prove a point, and he was under a gun. He had to build this by a certain, so he built it. Then they had to prove it could fly, because they were putting Senate hearings together and everything else, and wanting to prove that he wasn't wasting government money and everything, and so they had
Because he got contracts in the World War.
yeah, and they had to prove, well, now that you built this stupid thing, and I don't think you ever wanted to build it out of wood, now, the only way you're going to get away with this is if you can prove, because it can't fly. Well, yeah, it can fly. You have to prove it can fly. That's why they had to do the one run.
Yeah.
Once they made the run, that the point was, they never intended to actually make those for the military, but he had to make good on this contract, and actually had to build a prototype and had to fly. And every time he wanted to do something, somebody was throwing a monkey wrench in there somehow on purpose. And it made more sense when I saw the movie. And I'm sure a lot of it's been glamorized, but it kind of makes it. It's like with the movie Tucker, A Man in His Dream. Did you ever see that? I never even knew what a Tucker was until I saw the movie. And then once I saw it, I got interested in the history of it. It was a really, absolutely, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and so many other people. There's only 50 cars were ever made. And most of these people have one, Yeah. Well, when you see the movie, even though it's been movieized, most of it's really based on fact, and you start realizing that he was a man he thought way ahead of his curve, and other people were intimidated and were trying to put him out. The big three tried to put Tucker out, and it really worked, but it was a phenomenal story, And it's the same type of thing with Hughes.
When I saw yours, I had to go. I'm sorry.
That's no problem. I forgive you. You're my sister. I like movies with historical significance, something that's based on fact. And I understand and I appreciate the fact that there's not one movie out there that's going to be 100% historical.
No, you're not.
But it's more meaningful to me if it's an event that really happened. Then you can kind of relive.
You can go and research it a little bit and go, what's going on? Yeah, well, he was, Howard Hughes was an odd character. He had that compulsive disorder where he had to, he just couldn't drop it, and it would never be perfect because he couldn't let it go. That's what screwed him
My
up.
brother David worked for Hughes Tool Company there in Houston many years ago, and he remembers one time they're out in the middle of this huge machine shop. It's filthy out there, it's dirty, people are working, and all of a sudden things start getting quiet. And he's looking at what's going on. There's a whole group of guys walking through, all wearing suits, kind of huddled together. It's like this must be a bunch of execs taking a tour, but they were kind of huddled. And as they were walking by, he looked, and right in the middle of them was this guy. He was filthy. He was scraggly looking. And I don't know if he said he was wearing overalls or coveralls, something that looked highly, and he had long stringy. He just looked weird. And at the time, he didn't realize that was Howard Hughes. He just wanted to see some of his money in action, And of course, all these guys in security walking around and walking him through his plan. It wasn't until years later people started really understanding that this was, he became such a hermit.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. That was the basis of one of those movies with Paul Lamont, where the guys claimed he had a will. You ever used said he had wills,
Well, there was one guy that actually
Well, I saw like a man's haircut from the shelter on the second time, cases from her arms. I saw it from here. It's like it was a comb. hair combs.
That is crazy.
I can believe it. I do have one particular thing that I want to sell, and it's an earring bracelet watch and stuff.
There are the people that made it all possible. Right there, all three of you.
Well, you remember the first day I got on the bandsaw? Your bandsaw?
You're probably the brains behind the whole thing.
I'm half of it.
I'm half a brain.
Honestly, don't even remember the show. I just remember the premise of the show.
Millionaire.
You remember that? The
It
TV
was a
series.
millionaire, yeah.
I always, the whole idea of that I thought was so cool that he wanted to be a philanthropist, but he didn't want to be known for it. In fact, they tried to bring something of that series back recently. And it
Yeah, I
didn't
think
work.
so. Yeah.
But the idea being where you just dress as a commoner, you go mix in with people, and you see a need, and you fulfill the need quietly. Nobody even knows it was you, you know, but you can feel good in here about it. I always thought that was really a good idea.
They actually had a reality show like that
Your
for a
building
while.
enough to go ride.
Right. Well, I didn't even know that. What was the name of that?
I don't remember, but it's a reality show.
I want you to write it down. That's my cat's name. I want to do it more. I think it's fun. Well, because I've sold, you know, a lot. My cat's name is Rolina. To put her walk. Because I found her in the wall. And then I was like, cut her out. Mama had kittens in the wall, and I took the cats out.
You know, worth
So
this
named her Rolina.
I don't think it was like a million. I think in like 100,000. You know, something
That's my name. Rolina Cat. Yeah, that'd be good. Sorry, I always watch. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it got to her up. That's the church I went to when I was a kid.
I have to say and do to get that. My head hurts. What did you say hurts?
I just left everybody alone and minded my business.
I said hi.
But you told me yesterday you liked me for that. So.
Now, what was funny is when we were down there cleaning all the storm drains, they were redoing the sidewalks and everything, and they dug down and caused big piles of sand up on the side. And while we were out there working, of course, we had to do something. We started fighting. And it wound up being quarters and tokens and chips and stuff like that out of the president's casino in the same area. I've got $100 chips at the house from the president's casino, which they're no good. You can't use them. But it's just, yeah, we found so much stuff. They're in them storm drains. It's just unreal.
Imagine.
Anything that could float that would fit down into that drain.
You're a writer. I would write about it. That sounds fascinating. You're talking about stories. And I didn't even feel it. I think it's fascinating.
I have a hard time putting cohesive thoughts together unless I'm talking.
I just went over there and looked. Because I thought,
That's the only way I communicate.
that's okay. And then the guy that's doing it,
I can tell stories all day long.
I mean, just need to report out like a bus guy. I guess.
Yeah. But it's just like they had along the beach, all the houses along the beach were pretty much nothing but concrete slabs, except for